Hello and welcome to the Byzantine Scotist. Today I have John Fisher 2.0 with me to discuss Scotism and analytic philosophy. So welcome to the podcast, John.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I think, wonder what the importance of analytic philosophy is to modern Catholic philosophy, because we have a lot of terms defined by the patristics, then we have a lot of terms defined by the medieval scholastics, and a lot of the time the way they phrase these terms helps show their process of thought, that it's not easy to take these ideas and simply translate them into another set of terms. So why then should we engage with analytic philosophy when it seems like that will involve moving to a whole nother set of terms?
Very good question. So the first thing is we should understand analytic philosophy because we want to reach out to people who study philosophy through the lens and the school of analytic thought. So if they're going to be using, this very abstract language and they're going to tie it into mathematics and things of that nature, then we have to know what they're saying in order for us to have a translation of what we're saying and then cross that bridge throughout discussion. So for example, necessity is something that is very different if you look at it from the perspective of how analytic philosophers think of it versus how someone like Thomas Aquinas would have thought of it. Like for someone like Thomas, he would have saw, contingency as being some sort of imperfection, and it would be something which was lacking in a perfection that God has. So hence, we would say a contingent thing is something lacking in perfection. It's something which is finite, and hence it's something that could have not existed. Whereas the necessity of God himself is due to his perfection and infinite nature, or for Thomas, because it is a being itself. For Scotus, it would probably be more of God's infinite nature. There's a distinction of schools there. But when you go to the analytic philosopher, it's can it exist in all possible worlds? And by all possible worlds, they mean just a set of non-contradictory statements, something like that. So these are two radically different conceptions of necessity and contingency, but in order to actually have a discussion with analytic philosophers and to know how they're bringing up something like a modal collapse argument, we have to know what they mean by contingency and necessity and how modal collapse follows with them, as opposed to how we might conceptualize it, and then have an argument about which is the better way to conceptualize it. So it's basically, first and foremost, for the purposes of cross-disciplinary and cross-school dialogue in philosophy, which, you have a ton of that already. There's a difference between how analytic philosophers think of an issue and how phenomenologists will, and there are other schools of thought that we have to talk with. So analytic philosophy is just one of those schools of thought, and that's why it behooves us to know what they're saying in order so we can communicate what we're saying to them and to understand what they're saying with their arguments.